Alright everyone, hello and welcome out here to an open broadcaster software tutorial brought to you by Wings Ltd from Denial Esports. Well, this is a fun little program that we have here, and we're going to get this going underway. Now, this is going to assume that you went to open broadcaster software, or you've heard of it and you went to the website openbroadcastersoftware.com and downloaded and installed it. Now, we're going to be using the 32-bit client for this tutorial, as there aren't many games that support the 64-bit client, if any at all, as the 32-bit version supports 99% of the video games that are out there to date. You can use the 64-bit version if you want to, though I must advise that there are not many video games out there that support it, therefore 32-bit is the way to go. Here we are under the general settings, and remember, this is the 522B, and you'll start out with a profile named Untitled. What I would recommend, if you're using this to stream to twitch.tv or any other live streaming service, you type in your username that you would have for that service, as you'll see why in just a few moments. I'm going to type in my twitch.tv username, which is WingsLTD, and also you can see now that you would also have two setting profiles, one called Untitled, one called your username that you're using for Twitch. I have one for Denial TV, as I stream to a different channel as well, which is Denial TV, and I have one for my personal channel, which is Wings Ltd. Having multiple profiles affects the following settings that you see here on the left hand side, mainly your path/stream key, if any. Whenever you are streaming to different ones, you'll have different stream keys. Now note, whenever you make a new profile, of course, they're going to populate the same stream key, so you're going to have to delete that stream key and then put in the different stream key for that profile, and then select which profile you want to use under the Profiles tab, and that will allow you to stream to the correct channel. We're going to go into the encoding settings now, and I'm going to give you the ones that are going to be best for a 720p stream. Note that you can stream at 1080p, but it's not really the best thing to do, as more people in the world can watch a 720p stream whenever configured correctly, and it will be still very clear, and there's a very small percentage, approximately 30% of people can effectively watch 1080p streams outside of the United States of America. And if you're going to be catering to your European audience especially, you want to be able to make it to where they can actually watch your stream. Now, if you're partnered with twitch.tv and you can stream at multiple resolutions, then that is absolutely fine. But most of you out there do not have that ability, so this tutorial is for your benefit. Now, you might be wondering what some of these settings are. CBR is constant bitrate. If you uncheck it, you go to variable bitrate, which gives you the quality balance option. Quality balance dictates the difference between quality on still images versus you actually playing a video game. Like if I'm at the desktop, or if I'm in Dota 2, Smite, League of Legends, etc., and there's action happening. Now, on Twitch, they noticed, and also with OBS and XSplit, everyone noticed that there has been frame rate drops because people had their streams configured incorrectly, and it's just very ridiculous to use variable bitrate, so we're going to check this box to use the constant bitrate. It'll make your twitch.tv streaming experience better, and also it will let you know if you have your stream configured properly for your internet. Also, the CBR padding, as you can see here, it's default on. You do not need to disable it unless you anticipate having to change your target bit rate while streaming. So if you have to change your bit rate while streaming, then yes, you can uncheck that box, but hopefully if you're following this tutorial correctly all the way through, you won't need to change your bit rate at all. As you can see here, I do have my bitrate set for 2750, which is the maximum bitrate used for my video. Though the average bitrate will also be at this value, it's going to be based on your buffer size, which is here. You can use a custom buffer size if you want, but it is recommended to use the same buffer size as your maximum bitrate to provide a non-skipping video. If you set that too low, people will catch up and buffer too quickly, and then they're going to see skippy video, which is not good at all. Now, you have two different codecs. Lossy, which means it is compacted and some of your information will be lost while you're streaming, which is MP3, but it does save you on the internet and processing power. Or you can go with AAC, which is a lossless video codec, which is high quality and will allow you for the best streaming experience. Also, you can set your bitrate, which is different than your maximum bitrate for video encoding. Audio encoding is different. So you take this value here, add it on top of your audio encoding to then get the most likely maximum true bitrate that you're going to be using. If you're going to be streaming at 720p, I recommend that you have at least a good 3 megabit upload connection. 5 would be the most ideal, of course, especially if you're going to try to do 1080p streams, but you need over 2 megs to make this work and have it 100% clear. If you have less than that, you're going to notice that your stream is then pixelated at times, things in the action will slow down, and stuff will just go absolutely ridiculously bonkers. But you should keep your codec to AAC for highest quality purposes, and for the bit rate, I would recommend setting it to 160 kilobits a second. If you're streaming at anything over than that, no one is going to care. Twitch.tv encodes your audio at a maximum of 160 kilobits a second. Therefore, even if you select 320, all you're doing is wasting your internet and your processing power, and no one is going to even hear. So, if you're doing offline recordings, though, setting it higher is going to be fine. But for streaming, keep it at 160. Trust me, if you don't, under your broadcast settings, it's going to throw out a bunch of red text down here. Actually, let me show you the red text. I'm going to go 320 because I'm a boss. Warning! Your OBS settings are not optimized for use with Twitch/JustinTV. Please set the following. Encoding settings, reduce your bitrate to 160. Womp womp womp. So, this is optimal quality for a 720p stream. That is confirmed with both Twitch.tv and Open Broadcaster software. In order to find out your upload, if you don't know it already, is to go to testmine.net, let it load, select the upload test, select test size 3 megs, and let it upload 3 megs of random data from your browser, which is still more accurate than a regular speed test that is flash-based. And while it finishes there, as you can see, I have a 3.5 meg upload. Therefore, my current settings should be just fine. If my internet goes higher than 3.5 while I'm streaming, it means that I have the risk of dropping frames while I'm streaming, which is never good for anyone. Also, you want to go to twitch.tv/broadcast/dashboard to get your dashboard link, which you will then put into this box right here. You'll see what this means here in a moment. Now we have two modes, file output and live stream. I recommend using OBS as well for your file output, as it creates a smaller FLV or MKV4 file or MP4 file or whatever you're trying to use than XSplit or any other recording software. It just does a fantastic job for your offline recordings if you're going to be editing for YouTube, and it's free, guys. I mean, free and open source is where it's at. Am I right? As I record this with premium XSplit, hardy har. Okay, but I'm honest. I'm be honest with you. I do 99% of my streaming with OBS, but if I need to use video, I use XSplit because doing it with OBS requires a lot of finagling that I really just do not like. Okay, so that's that. You select your streaming service from here, or you can use a custom service, which then you would put your server, your stream key, etc., etc. in. Now, I use twitch.tv, as you can see up here, and also the server, you will select the one that is closest to you. I'll be using the East Osborne VA secondary because that server has the least amount of load for me. There are programs that you can then Google to find out which server would be best for you, but I will cover that in a different tutorial for assets for streaming. It'll be a fun one, guys, so make sure you tune in for that one as well. Now, as you can see, this also cleared out my dashboard link since I'm not doing Twitch on it, so I need to repaste the dashboard link, and also your path and stream key if you have one. If you need to find one of those, you go to twitch.tv/broadcast. You will click on show key and then copy and paste it into this section right here. Also, if you're going to be streaming to multiple channels, please make sure you make multiple profiles so then you can easily select your different profile and have the stream key for that channel there. So you don't have to do what we did back in the day and just delete stream key time and time and time again in order to make it work properly for you streaming to different places. Now, The auto reconnect feature is great if you have internet drops, etc., etc. You can also minimize the network impact if you're on a wireless network or if you have a lot of users at your home network, though I wouldn't recommend really doing that as it causes a more delay on your stream. Unless your target is to have a delayed stream, then by all means do this. If not, then don't. You set your delay here, so if you want to stream with a 60-second delay, so you will not get stream snipe while playing games such as DayZ, Arma 3, etc., etc., this is where you would like to set your delay. Your auto reconnect time there is 10 seconds. It will keep trying to reconnect for 10 seconds, and if it doesn't, then it spits you out an error, and it goes, "Hey baby, you're not streaming. No, you're not live." Okay. Onward. Well, actually, I don't want to have a delay, so there. Also, take note, the farther away you stream, so if I was going to stream to the Netherlands, the more of a delay you're going to have on your server, the more likeliness that frames are going to drop, and the longer it is going to take for information to reach your viewers. So try to select the one that's closest to you, that you have the lowest ping to as well. Now, if you have multiple video cards in SLI or Crossfire format, make sure on this video adapter drop-down list you select the correct video card. You can then select a custom resolution for your monitor, which 1920 by 1080 is what this monitor that you see behind you is. And also, it allows you to have the proper downscaling resolutions. I understand some people do have 1600 by 900, and that's fine. That means you would be streaming at 900p. You can still do a 720p stream, which is 1280 by 720 by doing a resolution downscale. But this is going to be made specifically for those of you that have a 1920 by 1080 monitor. If you have a 1600 by 900 resolution, all you need to do then is going to type 1280 by 720 and run all of your video games in windowed mode. Okay? But also for ease, if you have multiple monitors, as you see I do, as you can see, it shows my secondary monitor, it's 1600 by 900. Therefore, I would have to set a custom resolution for that. Actually, no, you don't. I can just select 1.25, which downscales it to 1280 by 720. Perfect. Perfect. Okay. Or I can select my main monitor, which is 1920 by 1080. Then to get the 720 stream, I just click on the 1.5 on the downscale. Now, there's 3 different filters you can choose. Bilinear, which is the fastest, which also allows for some pixelation. Bicubic sharper, which is a bit better, but there's still a medium chance for pixelation from you downscaling from a huge size to a small size about like this. And then you can go down to Lencros, which is the best detailed, 36 samples, and it does take a little bit more load on your processor, though I don't ever notice it at all. Then we're going to go to the FPS setting. After doing a lot of experimentation between first-person shooter games and regular video games, I find that the best setting to have is 25 frames per second. This allows to have the least amount of pixelation in high-motion action scenes, while also maintaining a great quality for your watching experience. You can also choose to stream at 60 frames per second, but please note, the higher your FPS, the more load you're going to throw on your processor, and the higher your internet rating needs to be as far as quality of service and speed. You should only do 60 frames per second if you have at least a 10 megabyte upload and you're dedicating 5 megs of that to Open Broadcaster software by itself. Also, if you're going to be streaming at 60 frames per second, I recommend that you have at least a GeForce GTX 770 or higher video card, 32 gigs of RAM, or 16 gigs of RAM, definitely more than 8, and also an overclocked i7 processor or AMD equivalent that will be running at minimum 4.5 gigahertz a second with under full load keeping at around 60 degrees Celsius. Otherwise, you're shortening the processor life way too much just for streaming to have bragging rights. Most people in the world cannot watch a 60 frames per second stream at 1080p. That is because either A, their computer is too old, B, their internet is too slow, or C, they're just unlucky. 25 frames per second, no one will be able to notice on your stream. They will still think that it's a 30 FPS stream, like they're playing the video game themselves. They will not have any inclination or notice at any point in time that there is anything going on that is different. So 25 FPS allows you to save a lot of processing power to keep your FPS higher in games, reduce the risk of dropped frames, and also allow you to have a great watching experience. Under the audio settings, please select your desktop audio device, which should be your headset or your speakers, depending upon which one you want to use. I will give you a tutorial for using virtual audio cable or other programs like that to do advanced routing if you do not want people to hear your TeamSpeak or Skype, though I would imagine that you know how to do that yourself already. Also, for your microphone auxiliary to audio device, you select your headset or whichever microphone you use. Please do not use webcams, as these microphones are absolutely atrocious and make me want to die. You can also select the push-to-talk hotkey, where you hold it or just tap it once and then tap it again to release, instead of just having an open microphone, as I do. You can also set hotkeys to mute your microphone or to mute your stream in case you do full screen gaming, which I again also recommend against unless you have two monitors or you use some crazy cool plugins, which I will show you later, to make it to where you can remotely operate OBS from another computer. Also, please always select the option to force your microphone and auxiliary to mono, for if you do not, your voice will be only heard on the left side of someone's headset while you're streaming or doing an offline recording, and then it will make it not sound good at all. If you have multiple microphones, then you can have a virtual audio cable set up that will allow your microphones to then look like they're stereo and actually be true stereo, and you don't need to use this option. But until that time comes for you and you have a couple $1,000s to spend, please just set this to mono, and it will make everyone's life 100% easier. If you have problems equalizing your audio, you can always use desktop boost and microphone audio boost to then change that in multiples of 1, 2, 3, 4, etc., to make it to where everything is properly equalized. I will provide a different tutorial later that will show you how to properly equalize your streams so that you have the least amount of guesswork in between your scenes. Also, you can have a microphone offset for your microphone to start behind your video game. Though I don't see any reason that you would really need it, you can by all means set it up. Now, we're going to go over to the advanced sections. You always want to make sure you use multi-threaded optimizations unless you're on a dual-core processor, and then keep your process priority class at normal, unless you really feel like you need to elevate it. The higher you elevate it, the more CPU processing power it will use over other video games or other software, and if you find that it starts competing with your video games for resources, you might blue screen of death on your video game, your computer might lock up, or at worst, your computer might randomly restart. You can also disable the encoding while previewing to save some processing power, which previewing means this preview button right here. As you can see, I do have the preview going, and it tells me my FPS, and with what I'm streaming, exactly how many kilobits a second I would be using on my internet. I like to keep that there for a nice reference to know if I'm most likely going to drop frames or not with my current settings. Though, you can always disable that if you so wish. I also like to keep checked the allow other modifiers on hotkeys, so I can use such combinations as Ctrl-Alt-Shift-S to switch between certain scenes, or to start and stop my stream as well. The X264 presets are as follows. Ultra fast if you are on a dual-core processor or on a laptop. Super fast if you are on a lower-end i5, i3 processor or on a laptop. Very fast if you're on an i5 processor or a first-gen i7 processor or the equivalent for AMD. Faster if you have an overclocked i5, i7 or AMD quad-core processor, or even an overclocked triple-core processor that is going at least 3.8 GHz a second. You can choose fast if you have a second-gen i7 Sandy Bridge or Ivy Bridge processor or AMD Phenom equivalent and have it overclocked to 4 GHz a second to 4.2 GHz a second. Medium if you have a 6-core processor or at least overclocked to 4.5 GHz processor for your AMD. Slow and slower are for whenever you have server processors. Mainly, you can select this to put more of a load onto your computer processor and less on your actual internet connection for higher quality. I do not recommend doing this. I recommend keeping it at very fast, as with these settings you will have a very clear 720p stream that you can use with almost any processor. I'm using currently a first-gen i5 processor, but a great video card in order to bring my high-quality streams to the audience. So, in reality, you don't need much in order to stream with OBS. The keyframe interval is set to 2 seconds, and what that means is every 2 seconds it's going to check to make sure the audio and video is in check, which is the recommended setting for Twitch.tv. Please do not check any of these options unless you are absolutely crazy and know what you're doing. You do not need 61 to 120 FPS entries in your video settings, as that will cause desync between your audio and video, and then you're going to need to start forcing video timestamps for your microphone. Also, if you use a static IP address, you can bind your network device to a static IP if you have a lot of stuff going on your home network. You can also turn in the low latency mode as well to reduce a little bit of the lag or a little bit of the overhead that you have while streaming. Also, for the microphone noise gate, for those of you that like to stream and you would like to have a little bit higher quality, you can experiment with this noise gate. Anything under the closed threshold will not be heard. Anything above the open threshold will be heard. Therefore, you can make it to where it is quiet and you have the game sound or music until you are talking. You then enable the noise gate and choose the attack time. The attack time will sound something like this. Alright everyone, hello and welcome out here today with Wings Ltd, bringing you exactly what attack time should sound like. In reality, what this thing does is it makes it to where at the beginning of your sentence, everything starts out low. Even though you're really talking like this, it makes it fade in. The hold time is how long it's going to hold that peak there after you have stopped, or after you're getting ready to stop speaking. So you have to be talking at an entire 200 milliseconds, which of course is very slow time for you, in order for it to actually continue holding at the same volume level. Release time controls how long after you've said something that it starts to release. As you can see with this going up and down very, very quickly whenever I am speaking and whenever I am not. If you configure everything correctly, you can do things such as cutting out the noise from you typing on your keyboard, and then you will have it speak everyone will hear you properly whenever you speak. If you configure it incorrectly, you will sound like a horrible William Shatner lookalike, or sound-alike impersonator. Yes, a horrible William Shatner impersonator from Star Trek, like this. Hello, everyone. It is such a good day to be here with you. I know it might be hard to understand every word that I am saying, but I assure you this is the best thing because I do not know how to use the noise gate. That's exactly how you would sound. I know, it sounds horrible, right? You would wonder why anyone would do that. Well, I've seen people try to experiment with the noise gate. They've sent me messages like, "Hey man, I don't know what's wrong." Well, you need to learn how to use it. I mean, you have a preview here that lets you, look and see these exact values, and if everything looks fine, then it is most likely fine. Alright? So, I have went over all the settings and under the settings panel, except for telling you exactly what the dashboard link does. Alright, so coming here, we're going to end this with clicking on the dashboard link. Whenever you click it, bada bing, bada boom, baby, it brings up your dashboard. This concludes the first tutorial and a multi-part tutorial series for the 522B beta of Open Broadcaster software. In the next tutorial, you'll be able to see building your first scenes and also what all you can do and with some of the plugins. Well, no, the plugin is going to be a different tutorial. Take that back. I'm going to show you how to build multiple scenes, how to set up hotkeys in between the scenes, and what the most optimal settings are for certain popular video games. If you've liked this video, please like it, rate it, and subscribe. Send me a comment if you have any extra questions about this video, but also note, more advanced things like setting up scenes and how to have everything look correctly is going to come in the next video. Until next time, this has been Wings Ltd, the General Broadcasting Manager of Denial Esports, bringing you another video tutorial.